There are gobs of sugar cookie recipes out there. Every one I've ever made says to chill the dough before baking. Supposedly this helps the cookies not spread, but it also hurts my ability to bake sugar cookies last minute. Today I'm going to find out if you actually need to chill your cookie dough, or if you can safely procrastinate and still produce cute sugar cookies. The first step is to combine all of the dry ingredients, flour, baking powder, and salt. And then I set those aside. Next you deal with the wet ingredients. Beat the butter and sugar together, then add the egg, vanilla, and almond extract. Finally, add the dry ingredients to the wet ingredients. And with the power of video editing, we've got cookie dough in under 20 seconds. To test out whether or not we actually need to chill cookie dough, I'm going to test 4 different baking scenarios. First, baking the cookies without chilling. Second, giving the cookies a quick 15-minute chill in the freezer. Third, letting the cookies chill in the fridge for 3 hours, and finally chilling the dough for 24 hours before baking. I've divided my dough into 4 equal parts of 159 grams each. I'll roll out each one into a 1/4 inch thick using these handy dandy rubber bands that guarantee an even thickness. The dough on the green tray will go into the freezer. The dough on the pink and blue trays will go into the fridge, and I'll get ready to bake the dough on the yellow tray immediately using 3 cookie cutters, a circle, a star, and a tree. Before baking the cookies, I'm checking their temperature with an infrared thermometer. The unchilled dough is about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Now it's time to get this first batch of cookies in the oven. The green tray of dough has now been in the freezer for 15 minutes. So I can cut out those cookies and get them in the oven too. The dough that was in the freezer for 15 minutes is about 46 degrees Fahrenheit. This is a lot cooler than the unchilled dough, which was 68 degrees Fahrenheit. As they come out of the oven, I'll let the first and second batches of cookies cool for a few minutes on the baking sheet before moving them to a cooling rack. Now I've got to wait a couple of hours until my next batch of dough is finished chilling in the fridge for 3 hours. It's been 3 hours since I put the blue tray of dough in the fridge, so I can cut out these cookies. These cookies are actually a bit warmer than the freezer batch. Their average temp is 53.5 degrees Fahrenheit. The cookies will bake for about 12 minutes and then I'll let them cool. The final batch of dough will have to wait until tomorrow so it gets its full 24 hours in the fridge. It's been a full day, now I can cut these cookies out. Their average temperature is just under 50 degrees, so even chilling the dough for 24 hours in the refrigerator didn't get the surface of the cookies quite as cold as 15 minutes in the freezer. Now it's time to bake this last batch of cookies. Once the cookies come out of the oven, I'll get them cooled and put them on a tray with all of the others. It's finally time to compare the cookies from all 4 batches. The ones that didn't get chilled, the dough that was in the freezer for 15 minutes, the cookie dough that was in the fridge for 3 hours, and the batch that was in the fridge for a whole day. First, I'm going to look at the circle cookies. I'll start by measuring the diameter of each cookie. I'll see if they've spread by comparing with the original diameter of the cookie cutter, which was 2 inches. The diameter of the cookie that wasn't chilled is 2.12 inches. I'm doing my best to find the widest point of each cookie, but there could be a bit of measurement error here. The batch that was in the freezer for 15 minutes is about the same at 2.14 inches. The cookie that was in the fridge for 3 hours is 2.17 inches. Again, that's basically the same. The cookie that was in the fridge for a full day is a bit smaller at 2.07 inches, but it isn't really a visible difference. If we compare these measurements to the original 2-inch cookie cutter, the batch that was in the fridge for 24 hours only spread 3.5%, while the batch that was in the fridge for just 3 hours spread 8.5%. The unchilled dough and the freezer dough were in the middle at 6% and 7% respectively. So the cookie dough that chilled for a full day did spread less, but from what my eyes can see, there isn't a real difference. Now let's compare the tree cookies. Again, I'm going to do my best to measure the widest point of each cookie. The cookie that wasn't chilled at all is 3.6 inches at its widest point. The cookie that was in the freezer for 15 minutes is 3.43 inches. The batch that was in the fridge for 3 hours is 3.41 inches, basically the same as the freezer batch. The cookie that was in the fridge for 24 hours is a bit smaller than the others at 3.34 inches. On the tree cookie cutter, this widest point is 3.25 inches. So the batches of cookies spread by 10.8%, 5.5%, 4.9%, and 2.8%, with the dough that spent 24 hours in the fridge spreading the least. The star cookies are a little bit harder to measure. I chose this cookie cutter because I wanted to see if the points of the stars got more rounded and bloated, but I can't really see much of a difference between the stars, and they all look pretty pointy to me. For me, the bottom line is that there definitely was less spread with the cookie dough that spent a full day in the fridge, but I'm not convinced it was enough of an improvement to be worth waiting a whole day. Of course, there are other reasons to consider chilling your cookie dough, such as the texture of the cookie or how easy the dough is to work with when you're cutting out the cookies. If all you're worried about is the cookies spreading, at least for the recipe I used here, I think you can safely skip the chilling process.